E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna and Jim, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Ginwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tuesday. Welcome to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, this week is all about the ability in disability.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And I tell you right now, sometimes when I listen to these folks and I see where they're coming from, their disability, and let's just say that it's just a condition that they have, just like, in anything in life, we all have things we have to deal with. And they don't look at that at all. That does not define who they are. And quite frankly, when you see folks like some of the people going to share today, what they've overcome and can do. And then you look at ourselves who are fully functional physically and look at how many times we procrastinate.
We moan and groan about it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Donna. Before we get started today, I don't know how many of you out there love roller coasters. I can take them or leave them, and usually I'll leave them. Especially some of the ones they got now. Whew, man.
Well, when I lived in Ohio, we went to, oh my gosh, it's in Cincinnati, Kings Island. And they have, I don't know if it's still working, but one of the oldest wooden roller coasters around, and it's called the Beast, and it is a beast. It is rough, I'll tell you, but it was really fun. But it was rough. I mean, it because it's on the wooden platform, it goes all the way down. But it was a blast.
Oh,
it was a blast.
Yeah. How many times did you have to swallow your heart to get it back down?
Well, let's just say at this point in my life, I probably wouldn't be doing too many more roller coasters.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't blame you. That's a sign of intelligence there, of course, and you get on those things and you can't get off of them. I mean, that's for sure.
Well, and the ones that freak me out is when they drop your footrest and you have no place for your feet. Okay, I'm out. I can't do it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I feel helpless.
Yeah. And also today, Donna, today is a National Independent Worker Day. For all you entrepreneurs and all you people who work at home, you're kind of like self-employed. Today is your day to be saluted. And because to be able to discipline yourself like that, you've got to be a self-starter. You've got to be able to plan your day, work your plan, as the old saying goes. But today is your day. It really is. And we just want to, just really give a shout out to you folks there. Donna, you were talking earlier about this first gentleman, Nick Vujicic, I think his name is, Vujicic. Oh my goodness. He is just seeing him, the way he smiles and the way he, presents himself. A man that was born basically without limbs. And I mean,
it's tetra amelia syndrome. And most people who are born with that barely make it past infancy.
And I didn't know
that. He did. And throughout his life, he was determined that his disability was not going to limit him from life. So even though he had no legs, he was born with 2 tiny feet and one of the feet was had fused toes. So surgically, he had those separated, the toes separated, and he learned to use them as fingers to perform many tasks. Right? So with the support of his family, he managed to graduate from Griffith University and found Life Without Limbs, an international ministry serving those who are missing one or more limbs.
Wow.
He travels around the world as an evangelist and a motivational speaker. If that wasn't enough, he's an author, a musician, an actor, enjoys fishing, painting, and swimming. Beyond that, he's married. He has 4 children.
Wow.
Right? And so he absolutely didn't let what life handed him stand in the way.
Not at all. And I tell you right now, it said on there he could type about 43 words a minute.
Right.
And, so he just really, he has this, his attitude is, I'm going to live.
Right.
I'm going to enjoy life, and he's really been a tremendous motivational speaker. I mean, just his presence and the way he carries himself, you immediately respect the guy. Immediately respect him.
Right.
And
I saw him on a YouTube.
Did you?
And he's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
He is amazing. He's got a great sense of humor. And one of the things I always look at, Jim, when somebody is talking, a speaker of any kind, is their eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The windows to the soul.
Yep.
And his eyes dance. It's like there is a Christmas bulb, a little light bulb behind him. They just sparkle and dance. And that is just an inner beauty that is shining through.
Well, I tell you, it really is, because that's just like one of our good friends, Charlene Fouts. She's had a lot of trauma in her life, and when you see her, she has that beautiful smile and the light in her eyes. And because what she went through is, that does not define her, that does not own her. I mean, we're talking about incest, rape, spousal abuse, the whole gamut.
Right.
She could very easily, want to give up on life or, that sort of thing. But
it's interesting to me because, and I know in my life I do this, you can do 2 things. You can be bitter, or you can get better.
There you go.
Which is it? Right? I don't play, and that's what I love about Charlene. She doesn't either. She doesn't play the victim. She plays the victor. And that's what all these people that we're talking about have in common, Jim.
Yeah. Here's a young man. This is something kind of interesting. I may have pronounced his name correctly. Itzhak Perlman. I believe it's right. At the age of 3, he wanted to learn to play the violin, but he could hardly hold a child's size when he was so small. The music school obviously wouldn't even accept him. But even at that young age, he was undeterred by it. He taught himself how to play. A year later, he was paralyzed by polio and in a wheelchair. Doctors didn't think he should pursue music, but he ventured on. And now he's an internationally known violinist and conductor, winner of more than 12 Grammy Awards and numerous Emmys. My mother's name is Emery. Every time I see that, I goof that up. But Donna, think about that. He was only 3 years of age. He was determined he wanted to play the violin, and no music school would accept him. So he says, okay, I'll just teach myself.
Right? And that is just, again, it's born with a gift. And then something tragic happened in his life. And he looked at it and said, okay, I'll go on.
Yeah.
This is not going to stop me from what my burning life's passion is
Hmm.
about. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to let it make me feel sorry for myself and lay down and say, oh, poor me.
Yeah. Yeah, because these stories, ladies and gentlemen, they're very, very inspiring to all of us, including Donna and myself, because these are people who says, hey, what my physical restrictions are, they do not define me.
Right.
They do not enslave me. And for you folks out there that might be struggling with something, you're trying to figure something out, regardless what it is, you're focused on the physical, then that's what's holding you back. You need to lift your vision above and look at the future because your mind can only bring up the past. Look at the future. Focus on how you can love yourself, love others, and have a love and a passion in your heart
Right.
for what your dream is. I think that's
And,
kind of like what part of the secret sauce, isn't it, Donna?
right. And how you're going to obtain that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
What are the steps you're going to put in place to
Yeah.
obtain that
Hmm.
and live in your full destiny?
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and it doesn't matter whether it's being the best mother, um, best whatever it is. It just doesn't
Hmm.
matter. We're not talking about money here.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So that
Not
has
at all.
nothing to do with it. So, I wouldn't have traded all the money in the world for the time I spent at home with my children.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't trade all
Oh,
the
yeah.
sacrifices I made
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
to stay at home and be present for them and be
Hmm.
there for them. I wouldn't trade any of it. But this
Hmm.
is about planning what your next step is. How
Hmm.
are you going to be the better version of yourself to
Hmm.
step into your dream?
Hmm. Yeah, just think about a person born without arms and without formed limbs, arms and
Right.
legs. He had a little bit of a feet there, but I mean, like Nick, I mean, if he can do what he has done,
Right.
what can you do? I mean, it's just amazing, you
My
know.
my dad used to, he was a psychologist, and he used to say, "Well, sweetheart, there's really only one thing that stops people from doing what they, say that they really want to do and what they're passionate about."
Hmm.
And I would say, "What's that, Dad?" He said, "Oh, little thing right between your ears."
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yep,
he's,
that's so true.
he was right, because
Yeah.
we put so much crap into our
Hmm.
brain, right,
Mm.
that we don't process how to get rid of the crap that's holding us back.
Yeah.
All the stuff that is useless for us,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? We
You're,
carry
you,
stuff that we don't need to carry.
mhm. You're exactly right. And in yesterday's show, Emerson and I, we did the show, and I talked a little bit about, Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret.
Mhm.
And Earl gives a real good analogy of our mind. Our mind does not really know what's good for us.
Right.
And he compared a great analogy of the farmer planting some seeds in the soil. And he says, let's say the farmer plants a seed of corn. Well, he knows corn will grow, and that's what the earth will produce. The seed will pollinate, and it will get roots, and the corn will grow and produce corn. The same is true if the farmer decides to plant a deadly poison like nightshade.
Right.
The earth will just let it grow. And the earth is like our mind. It's very fertile. It has a lot of soil up there, a lot of good nutrients, but it doesn't really know what's good or not good for us. That's where we come into play. That's where we discipline ourselves.
Right.
That's where see, love and abundance that cannot live where fear and physical things, want to hang their hat inside of you. And, you got to be able to push all that out because, you know, you basically, your life is upset. Your life is upside down.
It's out of
You're,
balance, Jim.
yes, ma'am.
It
Yes,
is
ma'am.
completely out of balance.
It is. You are so right about that. And when that's happening, there's no way
you can navigate your mental GPS to take you where you are to where you want to be. The point being, like this guy Nick, and this guy is Hack, the Perlman, the well-known, and I got to share a couple more things about him. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Honor. He's got, it says here, he's got 16 Grammy Awards, including a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award and 4 Emmys. He was at he was at the state dinner in the White House honoring Queen Elizabeth and at President Barack Obama's inauguration. I mean, this guy was stricken with polio. He could have very easily said, well, I got to take care of myself, feel sorry for myself, or let that define him. But no, he chose to live. The question is, how much of this are you getting that will inspire you to, regardless of age? Regardless of age. I mean, I'm, last I check, is it 47 or 74? I forget. Is it dyslexic or whatever? But people ask me when I plan on retiring. I tell them simple, the day before I die, because I enjoy what I'm doing. And I've got to be proactive. I've got to be productive. And Donna, you're the same way. You are a workaholic yourself.
Yeah, and I've had to learn. One of the things I've had to learn is when to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think as people who are hyper focused on their end result, we can work ourselves, to beyond being weary.
A frazzle.
Right. And so that's one thing that, when I was diagnosed with MS, I already had arthritis my entire life. But when I was diagnosed with MS and I had to learn to rest my body, Jim, it was a huge struggle for me to say, Donna, it's okay. It's okay if you do nothing all day, because that is your body healing. So, once I got past that, I realized what a blessing having MS is, because it taught me a lot of things. So I don't look, and that's what all these people we're talking about, they don't look at the negative, right? They don't look at the, oh my gosh, oh man, I've really got a rough life. They look at the lessons that they're learning from it.
Yeah.
And that is where your growth and your power resides, in learning from the lessons that are sometimes difficult, Jim.
Oh, yeah, it really is. And, I'm looking at the picture of this guy, Perlman here. In 1958, he's 13 years of age. He has these type of braces that was very common with children who had polio. My brother had polio, and he died, not from the polio, but he died from having pneumonia. But he was restricted to his crib the whole time. He could never develop because it hit him when he was very, very young. I think it's just a year or two old, or maybe 3 when he got it actually. But here he is, this guy, Perlman, at 13 years of age in 1958, and he's standing there. He's got these, these supports for the elbow and the arms, that kids with polio had back in those days. He's being congratulated after playing and after a concert on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now, for you young folks, you may not remember who Ed Sullivan was, but he was a huge show that came on. Sullivan came on the Ed Sullivan Show. It ran, he was on the show twice in 1958. And the Ed Sullivan Show, it ran from 1948 to 1971. It was on CBS. It was it came on Sunday nights. He was prime time, and everybody knew who Ed Sullivan was. And even after all these years, I know who one of his long-term sponsors was Mercury.
Right.
I never have forgot that. It's amazing. And He was back on there in 1964. But the point of it is, here's a young man who, he was stricken with polio, but he loved playing the violin. He says, that is not who, polio is just a condition I got to live with,
Right.
That's it. And that's very inspiring to me. It really is, Donna.
It is, because we, just like you spoke about earlier, Jim, we get stuck in that space, the physical, and we think, oh man, it's so rough. It's so difficult. I've got to get all this done. And not saying, folks, that it isn't a struggle and that there isn't things, that are difficult. But I think it's about perspective. Right? So I learned how to be grateful for having things in front of me that I can do. I learned to be grateful for the work I do here on the TV show and the other things that Jim and I are doing behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
I learned that when I'm tired, I'm grateful for that, because I know that that's when, I need to rest. We all need that day of rest.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We can't, we can't just go. Why do we, we work a 40-hour week here in the United States, and everyone's always looking forward to the weekend. What's the first thing everyone wants to do? Sleep in. Yep. Right? Sleep in. Absolutely. Friday came. Woohoo! We can sleep in tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. I tell you, it's really amazing. And, anytime you can treat yourself, do so, because just remember one thing, you are worthy, and it's okay to treat yourself, but it's not okay for you not to believe in yourself.
Right.
And this next story, Donna, this really, we had a gentleman on the show who had a similar type of accent. This lady's name is Joni Eareckson Tada, T-A-D-A. Yes. And, she was only 17 years of age. She was a very active teenager. You got to back up a little bit and look at her family history. She was born in 1949, and she was named for her father, John Eareckson. And so she pronounced, her name pronounces like Johnny. That's the way she pronounced it, Joni. It's Joni, but she pronounced it Johnny. Her father participated in the 1932 Summer Olympics, and he was also an alternate for the United States wrestling team and honored as a distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum in 1996. So having a dad like that coming up, naturally, she's going to be interested in sports. She's going to be interested in things, and she was very active. And what happened is that, she had a very active lifestyle, and growing up, she enjoyed riding horses, hiking, tennis, swimming. But on July the 30th of 1967, when she was only 17 years of age, she dove into the Chesapeake Bay. And after misjudging how shallow the water was, she had a fracture between her fourth and fifth cervical vertebrae and became a quadriplegic. And that really changed her life. Now, you think at 17 years of age, you have an accident like that, and all of a sudden, instantly, you're now going to be facing life as a quadriplegic. How would most 17-year-olds react? How would anybody react at 27, 37, 47,
Oh, you would be devastated.
Yeah.
And just want to say, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah. Why me?
Right.
That would be one thing a lot of people would ask us, why me? Dixie's down at my feet here, so if you see me down there, I'm trying to pet her too. She's a character.
But that's okay.
But oh yeah.
Your turn to have a cat bug in you.
Oh yeah.
Me.
Yeah, there you go. And but during 2 years of rehabilitation, Johnny, she, according to her autobiography, she experienced anger, she experienced depression, she had suicidal thoughts, and even religious doubts. How many times have something happened to us and we may not say it, but we think deep down inside, why me, Lord? What did
Right.
I do to, deserve this? And it's perfectly normal for someone to feel that way, especially a 17-year-old who is now, their life has been altered for forever.
Right.
And, but however, during the occupational therapy, she learned to paint with a brush between her teeth, and she began selling her artwork. And she also writes the same way, although for most writing tasks, she relies on voice recognition software. But to date, she has written over 40 books. She's recorded several musical albums, and she starred in an autobiography movie of her life. And she is an advocate for people with disabilities. I'm going to be an advocate for people who can't pronounce these big words sometimes. I got a lot of experience on that.
Oh my
People
goodness.
all over the world can say, yep, Jim's got a degree on that one. Get my tongue wrapped around my eye tooth, and I just can't see what to say. But this really took her, this accident, Donna, it took her in a new direction.
Right.
And a direction she wasn't planning on.
Right. Well, what 17-year-old would expect that?
Oh, yeah. And there's a lesson in that because probably at 17, as active as she was, and all the things that she was doing, she was probably a tomboy on top of that, and just didn't realize how shallow that water was, had a freak accident, and boom, now her life has changed. But many times in life, when we're trying to go in one direction, and we really think that is the open doorway for us to go through, and yet it is slammed shut on us.
We think that's the only open and shut door, period.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. And what happens is that many times, fate, if you want to call it faith, you can call it the senior in the sky, whatever it might be. But the energy, the very reason why you were created, is trying to steer you away from that direction that you think is the right way for you, and say, we're going to shut that door because we got another door over here. It needs to open. This is your right pathway for you.
Right.
And whether or not that was the right pathway for her, we cannot say, but we do know she took full advantage of that pathway that she was now on.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's one that's real interesting, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
And a movie was made about her not too long ago. Bethany Hamilton. She was 13 years old. She was a successful pro athlete who began surfing at a very young age. As she got older in Lahu, Hawaii, she's a native, she became one of the best surfers in the world.
Wow.
She was out, on her surfboard at 13, and a great white attacked her. I believe it was a great white. Traumatizing accident. She saw that she had lost her arm. But that didn't stop her from doing what she loved to do. And, I watched her story. She she had to lose it like right up here. So they tried to do a prosthesis, but there wasn't enough left of her arm to be able to use the prosthesis. Right, exactly. And so she was going to give up surfing. And she was really good. I mean, her family, they're all from Hawaii. They live pretty much on the beach, go surfing. It's mom, dad, everybody. And it went on it was a tiger shark, excuse me, not a great white. But they went on, and she finally decided, after she first gave away all her surfboards, all her this, she went to her dad and said, okay, I want to do this. So she worked hard. I mean, she learned, she had to learn to balance on the
Mm-hmm.
surfboard again. And then
Mm-hmm.
her dad made a special, I know virtually nothing about surfing, folks, but
Mm-hmm.
he made a special handle, if you will, on her surfboard that when the wave would come over and they get flipped and they get in the water, that she wouldn't get cockeyed from being loss of limb and her balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
she could hang on and get back
Mm.
up.
Mm.
But she went on, and I mean, it was a really beautiful story. She went through everything. She went through the depression. She went through the anger. She went through very religious. Went through
Mm.
again a little bit of questioning, and
Mm-hmm.
she finally went on um, a uh, church mission, and I don't know where it was at, but they had been devastated by probably a hurricane. And so
Mm.
there's all these displaced people, and there was this little boy, and one of the gals in her church group said he hasn't talked since the storm hit. And there was a surfboard that floated up,
Mm.
and she got him to go play in the water and got him to smile. And that
Mm.
was the beginning for her of rebuilding her life. So she
Mm.
not only, rebuilt her life, she went to she went in and became a champion pro surfer again with one arm.
Mm.
She did not let it stop her. And she
Mm.
knew that it was just what it is, a kind of a freak accident at the right or wrong place at the right or wrong time, however you want to
Mm.
look at it.
Mm. It's just amazing how, sometimes in life, you're at the you're just going to be a victim of an accident or something, and it's going to change your life. So when you think about these people and others that may come to your mind who are really inspiring to all of us, uh, who inspires you? There's
Right?
been many mentors in my life and many people that inspire me, and I guess everyone can inspire me to a certain degree, as long as it's positive and uplifting and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
But you know, is it? But do you look for someone that has a capacity to dream, a capacity to say, no matter what, I'm going to continue on?
Yes.
Those are my kind of people.
Mhm.
And there's been many examples. Going to cover some more, and maybe not tonight. I don't know how much time we got left, but we're going to be during this week covering some more people who have overcome some great obstacles to succeed in spite of the challenges that they faced.
Right.
And some of them were born with disabilities. Some had injuries. Some had illnesses. Whatever the case might be, accidents. But regardless, think of all the people, the Special Olympics.
Hmm.
My goodness gracious. I mean, and Donna, I was affiliated with for many years with the Kids Unlimited. This was a kids organization. All kids were welcome, but it's originally set up for kids with cancer. So any
Okay.
kids that had any type of disability or illness or whatever, they were welcome. And they go on fishing tournaments. There was a real, one kid per boat fishing, and they were all, counting the fish and all that. But when it was time for those kids to get out of those wheelchairs and to get into those boats, I mean, you couldn't stop them.
Hmm.
You could not stop those kids because they're going fishing. The parents would be able to obviously to record or take pictures of them, and they had other boats that would ride close to the where their child was, so they could take pictures of their child fishing in that boat. And the point was, is those kids, even though they had a lot of them went through treatment, a lot of them were, very they lived in a lot of pain and stuff like that. But when it came to those fishing tournaments,
Hmm.
that was big time with them.
It was game
And
on.
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it was just amazing to see the look on their face when they come out of those wheelchairs, like, oh, this is it.
Right?
Bless their heart. And a lot of us when we go fishing, I wonder if I'm biting today. I don't know. Might want to bring the telephone along so we can put two wires to it and drop it in the water. If nobody's around, we'll crank it and get some fish. I mean, people just, some people just enjoy complaining. But when you see little kids like that who have lived a lot of their life at the doctor's office and the hospitals,
Right.
getting a chance to come out of that wheelchair and participate in a bona fide fishing tournament.
Right.
Oh my goodness gracious. I mean, it's just
When
a dream come true. Go ahead.
when I was in a 4-H when I was a kid, we went to camp one year, and it was up around Flagstaff. And I remember we were gonna rock climb and rappel,
Mm.
and there was two boys in that camp that year, and one of them they were brothers, and they were both blind.
Mm.
And one brother he wasn't going to do anything, and the other little boy said, well, yeah, I'm in. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, wow. So he climbs up, we get to the top, and of course, we all have to take our turns, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're waiting our turn, and I asked him, I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, yeah. And I said, I have to know why you're doing this. You're blind.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a couple of years older than him. So I was maybe 14. He was maybe 12. And I said, I can't imagine how scary it would be to be blind and be doing this. And yet here you are doing it. Excuse me. And he looked at me and he smiled. And he's like, oh, you're Donna. I'm like, yeah. And he said, well, it's real simple. He said, I am very blind. I will never get better. And he had a great sense of humor. And he said, but here's the thing. If I don't do this now, if I don't climb this like I did and rappel down, then I am going to be scared to do anything else the rest of my life because I don't have my sight.
Mm.
Now, this was a 12-year-old child.
Wow.
Now, you talk about impactful. I will be 58 this year, and I have never, ever forgotten talking with David that day up on that ledge in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Wow.
Talk about powerful.
Oh, yeah. And I was reading also a little bit about this lady. I'm not very familiar with her. Her name is Sue Austin. Have you heard of Sue Austin, Donna?
I don't think so.
But she was born in 1965, and she became disabled. She's known as an artist working in multimedia performance and installation. She is best known for her work creating the spectacle in which she uses a specially modified wheelchair to move underwater because she had a passion and a love for scuba diving.
Wow.
And it just says after a long illness, she found herself in a wheelchair. And, so that was the way her life, turned out. But what was really amazing because of this specially made wheelchair and her passion for this scuba diving, she performed and was part of the London 2012 Cultural Olympiad, and her underwater wheelchair has been seen more than 150 million people around the world.
Wow.
And that's really amazing because, you would think, who would even think of that? Let's put it like having a special made wheelchair where you could still scuba dive underwater.
Right.
Wow. I mean, you think of a wheelchair, you think of someone, these are the controls,
Right.
I mean, but that just goes to show you that whatever her love and passion was, she had it for scuba diving. She wasn't going to give that up.
Right.
That's incredible. It really is.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
she's very artistic. She has her own artistic practice, and she's the effects of a medical model of disability, is the way she is described. And when compared with writings on the social model, the photographer Norman Lomax captured images of Austin in Shah La Sharik in the Red Sea. He told The Independent, as a photographer, the best stories are of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's what I saw here.
Right.
And it's just amazing how, she continues to live her life, and whatever her passion is she wants to do, she did it, because that just really floored me. It made an impression on me. Who would even think of going scuba diving in a wheelchair?
Yeah, I would not have thought of that.
No.
I would not have thought of that. So I love this story, and I think a lot of us know about this gentleman.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up his books, so pardon me while I do this. Christopher Reeve.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so he was, oh my goodness, he was
He started
Hollywood.
he started Superman, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He started films in the 70s and 80s. Now, I want to preference this because I read his book and I cannot remember what the heck it's called, so that's why I'm looking it up. But when he was in Juilliard, there was another great that was in Juilliard, and that was Robin Williams. They became best friends, absolutely best friends. And so we know about Robin Williams and his career. So they both, they took off and they were doing great things. Well, Christopher Reeve was quite the equestrian, and he competed. And in 1995, he was thrown from his horse and he landed on his head. So if I recall right, if it was like a half an inch over one way or the other, he would have been fine. The half an inch over the other way, he would have been dead. And so his spinal cord was damaged as a result, obviously, beyond repair. So he not only became a quadriplegic, but he became dependent on a portable ventilator to breathe.
Yes.
Right. So he, in his books, and I've got it here, I apologize, I had to look it up. Still Me. Oh, that was an amazing, amazing book. He went into detail about his journey, Jim, and about how mad he was, just like we've talked about, everything that could have been, right? And there was one day he was laying in the hospital, and I guess in his condition, they turned him. So he'd lay for a while with his face down to the floor, and then they would turn him and he would be laying upward. Well, this particular time, he was in the hospital bed with his face down toward the floor. And in comes a doctor, and he's Russian. And so he's talking to him, and very broken English. And he's talking about how he was here to give him its proctology exam. And Christopher Reeve is starting to get mad. And he's like, hey, I'm a quadriplegic. What the hell are you talking about? You want to do a exam on me. And the guy just kept going on and on and on. And I guess finally Christopher Reeve got really mad and he cussed at the guy. And then pretty quick, right after that, this head comes right down underneath the table and looks Christopher Reeves in the eye. It was Robin Williams. It was Robin Williams because they were roommates at Juilliard. So Robin Williams, he wasn't going to let his friend just sit there and be, miserable. So he was going to go in there and give him a little grief and have a little fun. But
I could just see Robin Williams doing that too.
Oh my gosh. So,
And
he went on, though. Christopher Reeves went on to be a writer. He continued to direct movies.
Yes.
He was a voice for
Sesame Street, I think, also, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't remember that, but I know that he worked tirelessly for getting quadriplegics, paraplegics, in help that research needs to be able to get people to be able to have their spinal cord repaired. And so he went on to do amazing work. And he took it, it took him a while. When I read the book, I wasn't shocked, but it was so well written, because when you were reading it, every emotion he had, you were literally feeling it all the way through the book. And, I can't imagine what that feels like. But when I read it, I was feeling everything he was feeling. So he was an incredible writer. So he had the foundation up, and then after he died, his wife ran the foundation, and then of course she died a few years later from cancer, I believe it was. And so his children now run that foundation.
So Donna, even after his accident in 1995, when he went over the head of the horse and landed on the ground and became a paraplegic and all, he never, based on what he did after that, he was still in his heart, and in the heart of many other people, he was still Superman.
Sure.
Not the character that he portrayed in the two movies, but the Superman. And I gotta say, you gotta extend that umbrella. His wife, Dana.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness. She was a super lady. She was with him every step of the way. I think Christopher died back in 2004. She passed away a couple of years later from lung cancer. But the love, the support, being there. I mean, from 1995 to 2004, I hate to say it, but a lot of men and women would have left, would have walked. Yes. In fact, there is a guy that I know, and he speaks openly about this. I don't think he would mind me sharing it. I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a member of the Golden Knights. This is the Army elite parachute team. And they go out and they do these jumps. The Air Force, of course, has the Thunderbirds. The Navy has the Blue Angels. And the Army, we jump out of airplanes. It's a perfectly good airplane, but just going to jump out, and parachute down. But that elite group is known as the Golden Knights. And he and his friend were going to do a diamond where they come down, they turn, they got the flares going, coming down and all that. It's very spectacular if you've ever seen it. And they were going to come together. And of course they miss, but they make a complete, diamond.
Right.
Except this time they didn't miss. They hit each other.
Ooh.
His friend was killed instantly, and he lost both of his legs from the knees down. And when he was in the hospital recovering from those injuries, he's dealing with that. He's dealing with the loss of his friend. He's also going through Dana is probably also, his name is Dana, first name. Dana is also going through probably, I've never heard him say this, but he's probably going through, what did I do? What could I have done differently to not allow this accident to happen? Then his wife comes in and she tells him, basically, she can't handle this. And she takes off. She's gone.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm not, and women can be in that situation too. And they can have a man walk in and say, oh, honey, this is not what I signed on for.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll walk. But true love never walks.
Nope.
And Dana Reeve had true love for her husband. And
Absolutely.
I was always a fan of hers. I admired her for her courage, for her stickability.
She had such grace.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did, Donna. She certainly did. She demonstrated, in fact, I would say she's one of those people that if you open up a dictionary, and if you wanted to look up the definition of the word lady, it wouldn't surprise me if her picture was there.
Right.
She was a true lady in every step of the way.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I bet they were a fantastic couple to known while they were here on Earth, because they were just beautiful. Sure, they were well known in Hollywood and all that, but here again, Hollywood did not own them. It did not define them. That's like Paul Newman and John Woodward. They had a beautiful marriage. Yes, what they did, acting in Hollywood, that was their profession.
Right. It was what they did for a job.
Yes. But when the cameras were off, they knew the value of having a loving home. And people like that we can get tremendous inspiration from. Because with all of the pressure out there, to be in with the in crowd, to get your name in the news like some of the folks do. I mean, some of the folks out there, Donna, not to sound negative, but I don't think you could publicly embarrass them. I mean, from what I've seen them do, my goodness gracious.
Probably not.
I'm not going to name any names, but there's some girls out there that were real popular on TV. They change boyfriends like I changed my socks. I mean, it's just, my goodness gracious, But I mean, it was all about glamour, keep my name out there because I want people to know who I am, what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't realize how bankrupt they are on the inside.
Well, and I guess it's not for me to say what works for other people, but for me, I've talked about it before, Jim. We talk about our families a little here on the show, but not in huge detail, because our families are very sacred to us.
Oh yeah, right? Mine tells me to be quiet.
But they're sacred to us, and so our home is our sanctuary.
Sure,
and
yeah.
We don't like the whole world knowing everything about us every step of the way.
You're exactly right. That's going to be for next week's show. And we're going to title it, You're Not Going to Believe This Stuff. No, but see, that really defines Donna and I very well, because we're not here for our egos. Those of you that follow us on TV, in TV land out there, we don't talk much about, let me tell you who I am, what I'm doing, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And we certainly, at least let me say this to myself, we certainly don't try to impress you with our knowledge, because Donna knows that only take about 2 or 3, maybe 5 seconds on a good day.
Oh, shush.
See what I mean? I don't get any respect either.
Jim is extremely brilliant.
Would you tell my family that? They don't believe that. Yeah, just take it out of the show's money there, what I owe you there. Take it out of my share of it.
Oh, goodness.
But, Donna, it really is a pleasure and an honor for us to be accepted into people's, whether they watch us on a cell phone, a big screen TV, computer, whatever, laptop. It
Be
really is
accepted
our,
into their life.
yes, it really is our honor for that. And the reason why we love the show is because we know there's folks out there that really, they like our show, they like our format, they like the way we, deliver stuff.
Right.
And I know for a fact they love to hear Donna snort. I got to go on the other day on something. I forgot what it was now. I got 5 good snorts out of her.
Right? It was a doozy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Donna, our time is gone, isn't it?
It is.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much for tuning in. Donna and I realize that you could be spending time watching anything else or doing something else. But we sincerely hope and pray that you will, subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Messages of Inspirational TV Stories. All of our shows are uploaded there. And most importantly, if there is a particular show that or topic or theme that someone could benefit from, go to our YouTube channel and just copy the links and send it to them. If you have any problem at all finding anything or want to get in touch with us, just email us here at the inspiration@e360tv.com. One of the members of our staff will be getting that, and we will make sure that you get an answer as quickly as possible. On behalf of Donna and myself, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure and love yourself and make sure you forgive yourself. Love yourself enough to forgive yourself. And take inspiration from these folks that we shared because, Donna, we all need a good shot of inspiration every now and then, don't we?
I prefer to have it daily.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And when you see some of the folks that we've covered, yesterday and today and through the rest of the week that we're going to be bringing up, you're going to think, oh my goodness, how blessed I am. And remember 2 things as we close. In addition to being loved, you are very special. And yes, you are worthy. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.